Hi, I'm Dave Spicer, and I'm here to talk with you about solving our financial crisis. If you're watching the stock markets today, which is October 22nd, 2008, you'll know that they're down again, and we're going to expect to see them continue to go down until we solve this credit problem. Today's businesses require credit just to function on a daily basis. They need it for expansion, they need it to pay off old loans. In some cases, they need it to make payroll or build inventory. So without credit and without solving this problem, the stock market is smart to know that the trend is going to be down. So we need to know how we can solve the credit problem, and I maintain there's an easier way than we're currently setting out to do. And so what I want to do is put together a video presentation to capture those ideas. So to do this, you're going to see some things popping up once in a while. Over on this side, I have an egg timer running. And so my YouTube videos are maxed at about 10 minutes, so I'll be watching this, and if it pops up, you'll know I'm out of time for this video. Also, we may need a calculator on occasion, so if you see this thing pop up, you'll know what that is. So let's get started here. We'll put away the toys and talk about solving our financial crisis by doing what I call going back to the future. So how we can save $700 billion and solve the problem quickly as compared to what's going on today. I'm not sure how much longer we all want to wait for the Paulson solution to actually have any effect. My recent interest has been in writing, and I have a novel I produced called Deadly Freedom. And it's about solving a bigger problem than we currently have, which is our energy problem. Now, I know you're asking how can we have a bigger problem than we have with our financial crisis. And, well, if you put a dollar amount on things, our financial crisis, according to Paulson, is going to cost us $700 billion. Our energy problem actually costs us that much, $700 billion every year. Okay, so you can see we have solving this problem is actually a big one. The trouble is, until we solve our credit problem, we're not going to be able to solve this one. So in this problem, we have new technology we can rely on. We have electric vehicles that are available today and available in the year 2010 for the Chevy Volt. And new technology provide all the energy we need out in the desert southwest. So this is a solar thermal capability that's capable of powering 15 to 20 countries our size. So this is a solvable problem. Again, we're not going to get to it until we solve the credit problem, which I maintain is also a solvable problem, just not the way we're going about it. So to think about how to solve the problem, the first thing we need to do is think about a model that we can use for seeing how money flows in the banking system. Then I'm going to have a separate video on how we got into this mess. Okay. Then the third video is going to be how our current bailout schemes are working or actually not working, and why. So once we have a model in place, we can use it for these different tests and schemes to test them out. So there are actually two versions of the bailout. The first one that was proposed in the bill that was actually passed was to buy mortgage-backed security assets from the banks in an attempt to boost their prices. We'll talk about why that didn't work and why it can't work. We have now shifted, apparently, to investing in banks by taking equity positions in these banks. Currently 9 of them. I maintain, and as we'll see in the models, we are going to end up as the majority stockholder in these banks, which I believe will have an interesting effect. I believe it will be equivalent to starting a new bank, and I'll explain why, that would actually begin loaning to businesses, bypassing the banks that don't get any equity injections. So this whole thing is problematic, and there's still no money moving, okay? And we'll talk about why that's the case. And in my last video, what I want to do is focus on what I call the unwind option. So in this case, what I want to do is talk about rolling back the mark-to-market asset valuation rules that were passed by the SEC last November of '07, and that has put an undue amount of stress on the financial system. And in fact, it's become a problem amplifier. So I'll show you where a small, relatively small, real estate problem has actually been amplified by the passage of this one rule. And so in this section, what I want to do is do what I call going back to the future and talk about why this idea will work and talk about who doesn't want it to work or who wouldn't want it to work. But first, what we need to do is build a model. So let's get to that point, okay? So what I have here, let me change my pens. What I have here is a balance sheet for a business. In this case, it's a bank. And like all balance sheets, it's made up of assets, liabilities, and equity. And of course, in your personal balance sheet, this is net worth, but in a business, it's called equity. And like all balance sheets, we know that equity must equal assets minus liabilities. And the game in business is maximize equity by maximizing assets and minimizing liabilities. And of course, if equity ever goes to zero, you're basically out of business. So that's the game, and of course that's the game banks are playing. Now the other building blocks we need when we talk about banks are we need some assets and liabilities so we can build up our balance sheet here. So for assets, I'm going to talk about mortgage-backed securities. Those are the kinds of assets that are in the news today. And all mortgage-backed security is a collection or a group of individual mortgages. In some cases, thousands of them. In my case here, I'm going to round it off with a single thousand, so we can deal with round numbers. I'm also going to assume that the average mortgage has a balance of $100,000. So the average mortgage in my bundle here is $100,000. And since I have 1,000 of them, I have a $100 million asset here. Then I want to build up bigger ones just to make the numbers interesting. So I'll have 10 mortgage-backed securities combined to make a $1 billion asset. Then I'll have one more that's 50 of them combined to make a $5 billion asset. Then other assets we'll need are individual loans to banks and businesses and things like that. So we have loans to banks of different sizes. We have a $2 billion loan and a $4 billion loan. We have cash, which we'll need, is a nice asset to have. Then we need some liabilities, and these are loans from other people. So we have a $2 billion loan and a $4 billion loan. And down here, green is for money. So green is just a dollar amount that we use in our equity pool. We'll use for sizing our equity. So the next step is to take this and build a bank. So here's our bank. It's made up of assets, liabilities, and equity. And so on this side we have 12 billion in assets. On this side we have 8 billion in liabilities, which means, of course, this is $4 billion. So our equity is the difference between assets and liabilities, and always is. Now what we need to do is put together a group of these banks. So we're going to call the first one Bank A, second one is Bank B, and the last one is Bank C. And now we have to get these banks hooked up and communicating. And the way they communicate is by moving money between them. So let's take a situation, and this is before November 2007. So sometime before November 2007, everything was cool, and these banks are moving money between and among themselves. So in this case, A has a loan from Bank B and Bank C. C has a loan from Bank B. And over here we have a manufacturer, so a non-bank, a business that's borrowing money from A. Now, of course, the problem today is that all these lines are broken. And so we need to do something to fix that, okay? And so this is where we are prior to November of 2007. Okay, there goes our timer. So I'm going to have to close this one down. But in the next video, we'll talk about what happened and how we got into this position. So if you can, please bear with me. Go to the next video, and I'll see you there.